3 days since Libby Squire was last seen, and forensic officers from Humberside Police have spent today at the place where she was last spotted. Libby Squire's family say her disappearance is very out of character, and they are broken without her.
Being at the wrong place at the wrong time is a real thing and has been found to be the case with many incidents. In today's video we will delve into the case of university student Libby Squire. Libby Squire, who was mostly known as Libby, was born in 1998 and grew up in West Wickham, Buckinghamshire. She was a university student who was studying philosophy at the University of Hull. She was the oldest of 4 children and was raised by her mother, Lisa, and father, Russ. At the time, she had a long-term boyfriend named Connor Pye, and they would often talk about their future together. Libby was described as a hard-working, down-to-earth, and caring student. Her mother, Lisa, described her as a sociable person who loved to go out and spend time with friends. September 2018. Libby had returned back to Hull to continue with her undergraduate degree in philosophy. Fast forward a few months. January 31st, 2019. In the cold evening, Libby and her friends did what most students do best, going out in the town, clubbing. To begin with, they were chilling at their accommodation, pre-drinking before the big night out. After a few drinks, the group headed out to a popular nightclub called The Welly. As most bars or clubs, the security are able to refuse entry to individuals for many reasons, including if they think someone is too drunk. This is usually for their own safety and others. Unfortunately, once the group arrived to the club and were ready to go in, Libby was refused entry due to having one too many drinks. This isn't uncommon, especially among university students. On this occasion, her friends decided to carry on with the night, but only once they got Libby safely into a taxi back home. 11:26 p.m. the taxi arrived. Her friends put her into the cab to go home, and they headed on into the club. The group were vibing, drinks were flowing, but one of Libby's friends, Amelia, hadn't received a text from Libby saying she had arrived home safe. Amelia messaged Erin, a mutual friend who lived with the pair, to ask if she had arrived home, and the answer was no. No one knew where Libby was. When the group arrived home, they decided to roam the local area to see if she could be found or if anyone had seen her. Libby's friends were concerned as this was out of the ordinary for Libby to just disappear with no message. 2:21 a.m. They called the police. A short time later, more than 70 police officers were out, knocking door to door around the local area to see if anyone had any information on the missing student. On top of that, around 200 students also got involved in the search around the university premises, which was organized by another student, called Ryan Twaddell. Drains, bins, sheds, and even rural woodlands and farm nearby were looked around. Over the next few days, the police scoured through hours of CCTV footage and tips they had received. Strangely, what the taxi driver's dashcam footage did confirm was that Libby had in fact made it home that night at 11:29 p.m. Police believed she didn't actually enter her student house and went back out. CCTV confirmed this, as she was seen walking alone towards Beverly Road shortly after making it to the main road at just before 11:40 p.m. Libby was stumbling and must have fell on the pavement. However, luckily 2 locals passing by helped her up and placed her on a bench. 10 minutes later, it seemed she had enough and asked them to leave. They did and carried on with the rest of their evening. Sadly, it was 10 minutes after this encounter Libby's night went from bad to worse. Surveillance footage captured a man walking past her on Beverly Road a few minutes before midnight. Although it wasn't clear from the footage who this man was, luckily from other CCTV from around the area the police were able to identify him as Pawl Relowicz, a 24-year-old man living in the local area. He was of Polish descent and grew up near Warsaw before moving to the UK in 2012 at the age of 18 years old. He married in 2014 and has 2 young sons with his wife, Jagoda. His second son was born in October 2018. The young family made a comfortable home for themselves in Raglan Street, off Newland Avenue. His online profile seemed to portray him as a proud family man, and he often posted images of his wife and children. He worked as a local butcher and also enjoyed hitting the gym, which he posted often on Facebook. But behind his innocent, fairly normal family life lied a much deeper, troubled individual. Across many months before Libby's disappearance, Pawl had already carried out a string of disturbing sexual crimes and burglaries across Hull. It was quickly learned that Pawl was targeting young female students around the area, even though these crimes had nothing to do with Libby. He was a sexual predator and on numerous occasions was caught staring at young women through their bedroom windows whilst undressing, breaking into student bedrooms and stealing sex toys and underwear, and even performing sex acts on himself in public. It was clear he was a threat to young females in the area. Unfortunately, back to Libby's fateful night, January 31, 2019, she had unknowingly crossed paths with Pawl. 11:59 p.m., Pawl crosses Libby as she picks herself up and starts walking down Beverly Road. It is clear she is stumbling and vulnerable from the alcohol she had to drink that night. Roughly 30 seconds later, Pawl is seen walking in the same direction as Libby but on the opposite side of the road, and another 30 seconds later he crosses the road. At this point, Libby had walked into the ground, seemingly followed by Pawl. Just under a minute later, the pair are seen walking and looks like they are now walking together. Going into early morning of February 1st, CCTV shows someone getting into the parked car, supposedly Libby, and Pawl getting into the driver's seat, before reversing and driving off at around 8 minutes past 12 a.m. Her watch was later found in the exact same area. Sadly, that was the last time Libby was seen alive. From speaking to residents, the police managed to build a rough timeline and a potential location to where the car went. The car was tracked and pulled into Oak Road's playing field. 10 minutes later, and this was around the time one of the residents nearby heard a scream. 2 young females came forward with a separate complaint, one of which became a huge lead for the police. A man stepped out in front of them and started masturbating. The police used the time and location to track down the male, which ultimately led police to gaining a clearer image of Pawl and the car used. After police gathered evidence and appealed for Libby's whereabouts, Pawl was arrested on abduction charges on February 6, 2019, only a few days later after the fatal incident. They had searched his home and seized his car to find any clues on Libby's disappearance, and shockingly, the police found a pink duffel bag containing 2 masks, sex toys and underwear stolen from student properties around the area. Originally, Pawl denied knowing who Libby was until he was shown CCTV. He changed his story and acted like he was helping her and being a good Samaritan, offering to take her home, and dropped her off at Oak Fields, then left and went home. It was far from an admission, but it placed him at the scene. Students and staff from University of Hull held a vigil for Libby during this time. Weeks later, on the March 20th, 2019, a body was found in the Humber estuary, which the police took the body to the coroner and was later confirmed to be Libby Squire. It had taken around 7 weeks for the disappearance of Libby Squire to come to an end, with communities coming together to contribute to the search. It was a major hit to the community and university students. Flowers were left on the bench where Libby was last seen on CCTV and around campus. Testing confirmed that Libby had been raped before being killed, however her body had been so decomposed that the coroner was unable to determine the cause of death. This made it unclear if she was already dead before she went into the water or not. The pathologist on the case said she could have died from drowning or asphyxiation, but they could not be certain. Libby had a huge fear of water and wasn't a strong swimmer, which devastated the family even more when they were told where she was found. After the investigation was made into a murder inquiry, Lisa posted a heartbreaking message on Facebook. It said, "I cannot thank you enough, my darling pie, for making me a mummy, for choosing me to be your mummy. I kept you safe for as long as I could, and I am so sorry I could not keep you safe on that night. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." August 2019. 7 months since Libby had first disappeared. Pawl was due in court to face the other charges, which he pled not guilty to. However, he changed his plea last minute to guilty to 9 counts in total. 4 counts of voyeurism, 2 counts of outraging public decency, and 3 counts of burglary between 2017 and 2019. Sentenced to 8.5 years, which was reduced to just under 6 after a successful appeal. Police were still positive about this, as it gave them more time building the case against him for Libby's murder, and also not fearing if he would flee the country. The authorities built a damning case after running through hours of footage and solidifying the timeline of his movements. It showed him go back to the scene of the crime roughly 2 hours later around 2:30 a.m. after he was initially there with Libby before heading back into town exposing himself. There was no need for him to go back unless it was to conceal or hide evidence of his crimes. The test results came back and Pawl's DNA as found inside Libby's body. Once again, he changed his story, stating Libby had essentially thrown herself at him, and the pair had consensual sex in the fields before he left. But with all the evidence, the police had enough to get Pawl on both charges of rape and murder. October 2019. Almost 300 people gathered for Libby's funeral, and 2 weeks later, the police made an official announcement. Pawl Relowicz was charged with rape and the murder of Libby Squire. Whilst he was read the charges via a translator, he appeared to be completely unfazed and smirked. Pawl went on to plead not guilty and maintained his story of a casual hookup. After many delays due to the pandemic, the trial began in January 2021. The prosecution put forward a strong case that Pawl was a highly dangerous predator who would go to any lengths to fulfill his sexual desires. He saw women as objects and got a thrill out of frightening them. He saw Libby, alone, cold, upset and vulnerable, and targeted her. He knew of his intentions once she had got into his car, and if it wasn't her, it would have been another young female, sober or intoxicated. His defense, however, were more focused on the 10-minute window he would have had to commit the crime. The prosecution said it was definitely possible, as Libby was highly intoxicated and as she was seen unstable on CCTV, she was probably unable to fight back. Ultimately, the evidence the prosecution had was enough, from the DNA results to the CCTV footage and the fact he even returned 2 hours later. The trial lasted 2 weeks, and finally the jury found Pawl Relowicz guilty of the rape and murder of Libby Squire. He was found guilty by an 11-1 majority. He was jailed to life with a minimum term of 27 years. If he is successful in parole, he will be released in his 50s and will be monitored for the rest of his days.
Firstly, we would like to thank everybody for their love and support over the last 2 years. We've both really appreciated it. Our special thanks go out to the police teams and the other agencies that were involved with Libby's case from the outset through to today. As a family, today's verdict changes nothing for us. There is no closure, we don't get to have Libby back, and our lives don't revert back to normal. However, we are pleased that all the hard work and dedication of the police and legal teams has been recognised. Libby will always be with us, and we are all so proud of our beautiful, caring, wonderful girl. And although she has been physically taken from us, the memories we have and the love we share will never be taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
After his conviction, his wife separated from him and moved back to Poland. She continues to state their relationship at the time was good and was horrified when the charges came to light, and this was not the man she knew. Lisa continues to campaign to change the laws around non-contact sex offenses and fights for harsher sentencing, and even had a meeting with Boris Johnson. In 2022, Lisa said she wanted to meet Pawl in prison and talk about what happened on that fatal night. She said she don't hate him and wasn't angry with him, but wanted more information, but doesn't wish to forgive him. At the beginning he agreed to meet, but then retracted the agreement in February 2023. He said he felt the Squire family portrayed him to be a terrible person in the media. However, clearly this was his way of having some sort of control over the whole ordeal. Thoughts go out with her friends and family. Thanks for watching. Please share, like and comment which case you would like to see discussed next.